So, kitchen. Do peeling onions make you cry? Are you upset that when you have to peel an onion, children walk in and say, Mommy or Daddy, why are you crying? And you have to explain to them that peeling or cutting an onion makes you cry. Today's hack, and it has two parts to it. It's about cutting an onion and not crying. So how do you do that? Take the onion, before you peel or cut into it, place it in the freezer for at least 10 minutes. You could probably go a little bit longer, but then it's just a little bit harder to peel for just about 10 minutes. It makes sense. You're taking that chance of that liquid turning into a gas and keeping it more of a liquid into the solid, and you don't get the gases. Yesterday, we were doing a casserole, tuna casserole for Betham, cook for the people that needed to eat, and Ronit and Janet put it together, and it was wonderful. And Janet asked me a question after giving that hack. Well, what about storing the onion in the freezer? And you can do that too. So in the recipe, it called for a half of an onion. In this case, you take the half onion and then take the other half, chop it up, and put it in a freezer bag, and now you have ready to go at any given time fresh onions. And so we're going to be using a red onion in today's dish, which is the mozzarella. Actually, eggplant, mozzarella, and anchovies. Now, if you don't want to use anchovies, you're not a pescatarian, you could probably substitute capers to get that same salty taste. It won't be the same. What we found with this recipe was it was way too salty. That's my opinion. Ricotta has the salt, the pecorino has salt, the mozzarella has salt, and anchovies, as we know, has salt too. So if, for instance, when you're doing the eggplant and pulling out the water, make sure you dry it off enough so the salty water doesn't go into the dish. So where you can cut back on the salt, try to do so. I think it'll come out better. I probably even want to wash my anchovies down. We use very good anchovies, not the ones for the can if we're going to be eating it. And there are better brands. But if you want to use the regular ones, that's okay too. So enjoy the dish. It's nice on a cool night. As we come into summer, I probably will put it away until the winter. But again, this is one of those dishes you make too much, it'll freeze well. Enjoy. And here are the ingredients for the baked eggplant with ricotta, mozzarella, and anchovy. Yeah, once again, going with the anchovies. So you can see I've cut up all the ingredients, measured out the ingredients. There are my cheeses, the baking pans, the breadcrumbs. I do make my own breadcrumbs. Take old bread, cut it up into probably about 3/4 1-inch pieces, like out of a baguette. Then cut them into what looks like crouton shapes. Put them on a baking pan into a 400-degree oven. Toast them up until they're really hard. And then in a frying pan, taking 4 or 5 cloves of garlic and olive oil. Heat up the olive oil, throw the garlic in, and then put your croutons into that and just keep cooking. When you're finished, you'll know it. You'll say, oh, that tastes good. Then just remove it, put it on a paper towel to drain, or a cloth towel, and remove the garlic, although it is pretty tasty in a salad. And now we're going to begin to assemble according to the directions. I've drizzled the olive oil rather than painted, but you can see it's not quite even, and I took more red pepper flakes than most people want because we tend to like it spicy. One thing to note, you could feel the eggplant already giving up its water from just that little bit of salt on both sides. I wouldn't think that would be anything to worry about because that's what eggplant does when you put the salt on it. And I just scattered the red onion all over it. I think they use red or call for red onions. It tends to be a little bit sweeter. I just wonder in the future if using a Vidalia or a Georgia sweet would be the same thing. But for right now, we'll go according to recipe. There's the red onion. And then it asks for the ricotta to be put in little blobs, and there they are. They're probably about a little over 1 inch, but this is definitely a part where you have kids to say, hey, do you want to help? Because putting these little blobs on it was certainly a lot of fun, and I think kids would enjoy it even more than I did.
But there you go. Next step is the smoked mozzarella. Slicing mozzarella, smoked mozzarella really thin, is not easy using a knife. So when it's covered with the mozzarella, I wouldn't have enough pieces, so I started breaking them up to lie over top. So we'll see how that comes out. We still have enough for the rest of the recipe. By the way, you can use regular mozzarella. It does call for that, but we do also like that smoky taste. Kind of looks like a winter wonderland now with all the cheeses. So what I would do next time is buy a little bit more mozzarella, maybe even mix the regular with the smoke, because when it came time to finish it off with the mozzarella, it was barely enough to complete, and I'd cut it down into smaller pieces. I think the larger piece would work out better, but we'll see later when it comes out. The next step will be the anchovies and the breadcrumbs. Just a little thing about the anchovies, in case you do want to make it vegetarian. I did read where people were substituting capers and black olives, the dried ones, the olive cured. What I would recommend is to rinse your capers, the black olives and capers, a few times to get rid of the excess salt on it, because it's much saltier than anchovies. And the funny thing about anchovies, we'll see when we take it out, is usually they break down and basically they become umami. So for the people that don't like anchovies raw, it should be a lot different. And by the way, I do use anchovies that come in jars, not the ones that are in tin. I find it has a much better flavor for eating. So that's the way I use I use those in this recipe. We'll see how it comes out. Well, it's about to go into the preheated 375 oven, and just keep in mind, when preheating the oven, I'll probably say it every single time from my experience with baking, just when it hits preheat temperature, I still give it about another 30 minutes to settle down, so I know I have it much closer to the 375 or 350, whatever you're baking at or cooking at. So from this point, it looks pretty good. Now it's going to go in for the 30 minutes, and I'll turn it around, and then it'll cook further. It also says to be careful if it starts browning too quickly to turn the oven down, but we'll see what happens in 30 minutes. Okay, we're at the 30-minute mark, and even though I have a wonderful oven, all ovens have hot spots, cold spots, and that's why I always move it around. So this is at the 30-minute mark. You can see the bottom left, which I've already turned, is browning faster than the other areas. So in this case, I'm probably going to put the timer on, not probably, I will, for 15 minutes, just to make sure it starts browning evenly. Okay, this is after the 15-minute mark, so 45 minutes, starting to brown nicely. I'm going to put it in for 10 to 15 more. I'll keep my eye on it, but so far, looking good. Just took it out of the oven so you could see it was uneven in spots, so the next time I do this, I'll be turning it more just to make sure. But I did test it, it pierced easily. And now I'm going to put the oregano. It calls for Sicilian oregano. I'm not sure where mine comes from. I didn't ask it. It didn't give me any accent, so I'm not sure where it comes from. But it does say oregano on it. It's 1 teaspoon. What I like to do is measure it out and then pour it into my palms and then crush it as I sprinkle it to break down the larger pieces. There it is with the oregano. I could say Sicilian, but still I don't know. We haven't sourced that yet. Now it rests for 20 minutes. It says it's not supposed to be eaten piping hot. We let it rest for 20 minutes, and I just cut out as close to a square as I can. What I'm noticing is that there is a lot of liquid on the bottom of the pan, which I'm sensing with the salt and the eggplant. The next time I might try letting it sit a while and then wiping off the liquid after it's been salted. I'll let you know after we finish this how it tastes.